Okay, so let's talk about the story of four guys from Germany who, believe it or not, quietly built the entire future of music.
So, how on earth did four men, working in what was basically a German laboratory, become the secret architects of the music you're probably listening to right now? We're going to uncover how their strange, robotic sound literally became the DNA for some of the biggest genres on the whole planet.
You know techno? That pulsing, hypnotic heartbeat you hear in clubs from Berlin all the way to Detroit? Yeah, it started right here.
And hip hop? That electronic funk that built the absolute foundations of the Bronx sound, it came from this really unexpected place. And of course, synth-pop, the sound that basically was the 80s, inspiring everybody from Depeche Mode all the way to Coldplay. Well, its roots are planted firmly right here.
Okay, so to really get how this musical Big Bang happened, we have to rewind the clock. We're going back to post-war Germany.
You really have to picture the scene. This period was called Stunden Null, or Year Zero. It was a total cultural reset. A whole generation was trying to forge a new, uniquely German identity. And they were turning away from American rock and blues, looking instead to technology as the sort of new universal language. So in Dusseldorf, you've got Ralf Hutter and Florian Schneider. And their studio, Kling Klang, was the total opposite of a rock and roll mess. It was clean, disciplined, more like a sonic laboratory. They named their project Kraftwerk, which just means power station, tying their whole identity directly to Germany's industrial heartland. And this timeline really shows you their journey. They didn't just show up fully formed. No, they moved deliberately from these experimental, kind of free-form jam sessions into that super refined, high-concept robot pop that would, well, go on to change the world. But here's the key. Kraftwerk wasn't just about new instruments. It was about a whole new philosophy of what it means to be an artist. They completely threw out the rock star rulebook. The leather, the denim, the rebellious attitude, gone. Instead, they presented themselves as music workers. Think about that. Anonymous, disciplined, dressed in suits, like they were part of the machine itself. It was their way of asking, hey, what does it mean to be human in an age of automation? And this part is just incredible. The tools they needed to create their sound, they didn't even exist yet. So they just invented them. They built their own electronic drum pads to get that perfectly rigid mechanical pulse. They used vocoders to turn the human voice into just another synthetic instrument. The result was a sound that absolutely no one had ever heard before. So the big question is, how did this cold, precise, very European sound manage to start a fire all the way across the Atlantic? Well, it all started here in 1974. They released Autobahn, which is this 22-minute electronic journey that's supposed to sound like a drive on the highway. I mean, it sounds like a tough sell, right? But it shockingly reached number 5 on the US Billboard charts. This was the moment that proved purely electronic music could have massive mainstream appeal. And then you get this. This is literally the recipe for Planet Rock, one of hip-hop's founding tracks. Afrika Bambaataa gets an 808 drum machine. What's the first thing he does? He programs it to copy the beat from Kraftwerk's Numbers, then a keyboardist plays the melody from another Kraftwerk song, Trans-Europe Express, and boom, electrofunk is born. It's a direct bridge from Düsseldorf to the Bronx. But what's really wild is that at the exact same time, that signal was being picked up in another industrial city. Over in Detroit, pioneering producers like Juan Atkins heard Kraftwerk's album Computer World. And for them, living in a city facing urban decay, this wasn't just music, it was a vision of a technological future. In his own words, they were my gods. And it was from that spiritual bond between two cities, two industrial landscapes, that the entire genre of techno was born, built right on top of Kraftwerk's repetitive, machine-generated pulse. You know, during the classic period, they weren't just making songs. They were building entire conceptual worlds with each album. They were digging into these huge themes: communication, travel, robotics, and they were practically fortune tellers. On Computer World, they predicted personal computers, data networks, and mass surveillance with startling accuracy. So why does all of this matter today? It's simple. The code they wrote all those years ago is still running in the background of modern music. I mean, their melodies are so timeless that huge artists like Coldplay directly sample them for a massive hit. And that robotic but somehow deeply emotional aesthetic,
That's the entire blueprint for influential albums like Kanye's 808s and Heartbreak. The connection is undeniable.
And their impact goes way beyond just pop music. They totally shaped the experimental rock of David Bowie, who literally moved to Berlin just to soak up their sound. And their pulsing mechanical melodies, they became the soundtrack for an entire generation of video games. Their influence is just everywhere. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty mind-blowing thought. As we navigate this new world of AI-generated art and music, that man-machine future they predicted, isn't it finally here? Kraftwerk's vision of humans and machines making art together isn't just history anymore. It's our present reality. The man-machine is no longer just a concept, it's the operating system we're all running on.